separate.
Separate claim.
I understand, but we don't, I mean, you give us a list of claims every month and we approve like a,
Possibly
30 of
because
them.
it's insurance, I don't know.
okay,
Although, Spring and I were wondering, instead of doing this monthly, why we couldn't do it quarterly,
Just approve the claim.
but here and there.
Yeah, if you want to handle that, either quarterly or.
I'm just, if we took a separate motion on every claim, we'd be here all day.
And I'll find out, I'll inquire about that. Now, the weekly claims and so forth that we get from Allied is a little different animal because, like, I just got the weekly claims this morning. So plus there'd be a delay during the claim cycle, there could be a delay in paying the insurance. So that's why Allied is separate. Shapley, I'm not sure. But, okay, next I have Allied monthly.
Did you need action on that? Did we?
I thought you guys did.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Allied monthly. Health insurance, that's in the amount of $72,252.39. That's all the administrative and costs and that stuff. And the amount is higher than it was last year because rates increased. So there's that.
And that's the stop loss.
No,
Not
that's the
stop-
monthly. I'll do the weekly in a minute. That'll be the stop loss. That is the administrative fee for insurance. It's what we pay Allied. It's what we pay Allied every month for administrative cost and et cetera. Which is separate than the weekly because that's the medical and pharmacy.
Okay. And that's for them negotiating down
Yep.
the claims.
Yep. Like a handler's fee,
Or the what?
like a handler's fee, so to speak, as they.
72,252.39. I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, motion carried.
Now we have the Allied weekly health insurance claims. And that's in the amount of $30,269.60, $30,269.60. Of that, we had medical at $33,128.68. Pharmacy, there was none, but we had some adjustments and stop loss, and that brought the total to $30,269.60. Stop loss adjustments are on that second page.
I don't want a reimbursement on that one.
Kenny, if for some reason we weren't meeting weekly, I'm assuming we could approve multiple weeks at the same time of these claims?
It depends on what the due date is for the
Claim
next
cycle.
insurance.
Okay.
I mean, if you're late on some of these things.
But we don't pay them every week, right?
No.
Okay.
No, every 2 weeks should be fine on those. They know the cycle, so, yeah.
Make a motion to approve the Allied weekly claims of $30,269.60.
Second.
Okay, motion carries.
Right. Now you've got two animal control reports. You have one's animal control, the other one's the animal shelter. We'll start with the animal control report. That's what I handed out to you. It shows you where they picked things up, how much mileage they had, whether it was dog or cat and so forth. I passed that out to you prior to the meeting. Six total animals from March 1st to March 12th.
Okay, any questions on that?
Motion approved. Claim.
Second.
All right,
And now the animal shelter report. Doggone it, I think the last time this was done, I added it up for you, put it at the bottom, and I did not think about that this time. But there was total paid in $42 on 3/16. And this tells you how many animals, how many cats, how many dogs, how many were adopted, so forth and so on. Let me see, let's count that real quick. They have 15 currently dogs and cats at the shelter.
Tony, could we just ask them to sum those on the report they give us, just to give us a total? I mean,
Yeah, the next-
I assume this is a spreadsheet. Looks to me
The
like
next
it'd be
time
pretty
they-
simple to
The
add.
next time they bring that in, I will ask them
deal.
if they can sum it.
Yeah.
Last time I added it up and put it at the bottom, I just
I know.
forgot this time.
I know, gosh, not,
Feels like I had 20 things today, so,
let's let the machine do that.
yeah. Yeah, we'll bring that up next time they come in.
Very good. Yeah, if they would do that, that would certainly make it a simpler
Would
report
be a little easier.
to look at.
Make a motion, we put the animal control and animal shelter.
Second.
Okay. Motion carries. Any of them in the record?
Okay. We have the utilities that are paid into LAO in the amount of $41,047.28. I also passed that out to you prior, and that is about normal. That's about normally what the utilities that we pay in is.
Brightspeed, is that our internet?
Let me look.
That's CenturyLink.
CenturyLink.
CenturyLink? Okay. All right. Accept a motion to approve that
So move.
Second.
utilities claim. Okay, motion carries.
Okay, now we have weights and measures monthly report. And you'll notice on this one, the way it's summed at the bottom is what we want the other one to be, and I'll mention that to them. Looks like there were 17 inspections from February 16th to March 15th by Dan Hackman, the inspector.
Make a motion, we put that in the record.
Second.
Okay, motion carried.
Brad, I'll go ahead and do this too. This is if you guys remember, the 700 South project that's been going on for quite some time. That is culminating, and we need to pay the people $5,430 for that. So all we would need is for you to approve that. Then I just sign it. We'll take it back up to the office. We'll get the payment sent out to the Lefevers. If you want to look at it, or do you want Mark to remind you what that was?
Yeah, I have it here. We can cover that when we get to it.
We are doing it now
That for the.
for Lefevers, for the land project.
Okay.
Or do you want to wait and do that one with your report, Mark? Or do you want to?
It's a permanent easement across their land is what it was.
Okay.
So this is the amount for that.
Yeah, this is the right-of-way acquisition, an additional permanent right-of-way on the north side of 700. This is the last parcel. And I met with Brad about this last week. We talked about it. Total amount is $5,430. And landowners have accepted that. And they have signed the deed. We just need the commissioners to approve that payment. We'll get a check cut. We'll get the deed signed and we'll get it recorded.
Okay. Any other questions on that? That's right by South Adams there to
Yes.
improve that. Yep.
Motion approved.
Second.
Okay, motion carries.
Back, get that taken care of, Brad. And that is all that I have.
Tony and Bree getting that check then?
She is going to get that. We're going to send it out with the next cycle. We don't want to do it out of cycle.
I'll need to have the check so that I can have them come in.
Okay,
We don't want to send it out to them. I need them to come in and
okay, that's fine. Yeah.
deliver the check with the notarized deed.
If you want to, we done here, if you just want to go up and tell her what you need.
Yep.
Okay, anything else?
That's all I have.
All right. Brad? Brett, or should I, Brad and Company?
Nate from Wells County has the interlocal bridge agreement.
Yes. Is he gonna speak on conflict resolution?
If necessary. Here's a copy of that. The Wells County Commissioners did approve the agreement last night. And talking with Ted Storer, counsel for Wells County, it sounds like it'll need to go to both Adams and Wells County councils as well before it gets recorded. So I just wanted to present that to you at the first available meeting, so I came over to that.
Do you guys have a copy of this, or do you?
Not a copy signed.
Yeah, it's got the signatures of the commissioners, and then it'll have to go to Wells County Council on there. I think it'd be their April. It would
This
be
it,
before
right?
the meeting.
Is that what we're talking about?
Okay, but you have taken a look at this, though? Yeah.
I prepared it.
You prepared it, okay.
Assuming I'll need a signed copy as well. Is that the same thing we're talking about now? I've had that for weeks. I think Mark may have brought that
No,
over.
this was the agreement with the contractor, with Judd Excavating.
Yeah, just have the commissioners approve it and then make sure Brooke lets Billy Marino to get it on the agenda for council.
All right, did you want to take a look at it before we? No? Okay,
Second.
Brad, that's out of your Keel Bridge funds?
Yes,
So, yeah.
yes.
I guess I'll ask, do you want me to come along to the council meeting? Adams County Council to present the agreement as well and kind of give context to them. I don't know that they're really aware of the agreement.
Can't hurt.
Yeah, we'll hear people know if they got
But they-
more questions about the project.
I think it's
Yeah.
April 11th, I think is the next.
Are those funds in Keel Bridge appropriated?
Well, the funds are there.
Okay.
The funds are always there in that account.
They may not see appropriated to spend. That's something we're going to check.
Excuse on this.
Yeah, they're there. It's just like when a bill comes in, like we normally just pay, like a normal census. You're saying census is near tag just for that project?
Well, it depends on what's appropriated for 2023 out of
Okay.
Keel Bridge. I think
Yeah.
we generally appropriate a block of money that is planned to be used out of Keel Bridge for a year, so not necessarily earmarked.
Oh, yeah, no, we do.
As long as it's appropriated.
yes.
Between the
Yeah.
money that's sitting there and the money
Yes.
that's appropriated.
We have money, yep, we do. Have money in that line item
Yeah.
for construction.
so we've moved it from savings to checking.
Yeah, but.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
wanna-
that's exactly
You
what
want
I'm
to
saying,
keep
yeah.
it?
Essentially, yeah, the money's always in that line item for bridge replacement
Then I
or,
need it back,
yes.
because Wells County hadn't signed it.
Okay,
Or it doesn't have to be.
very good.
I mean, if you pick.
So yeah, we'll be there when you go to council anyway, too, so.
And that'll be the
They can
period.
Yeah,
All right.
If anything, they can be signed.
Yeah, just send me a copy of the agenda once it's set up. I'll plan on being here unless I got
Get it on the
some issue, but I'll just double check my schedule, so.
good deal.
Excellent.
Thanks for putting that together.
Oh, no, thank you for participating.
Yeah.
Certainly voluntary, and I certainly appreciate it.
Just gonna be it
Good.
back here. That's where you can take one of
It's
those.
good seeing you at road school, at least two of you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to see you next year,
Next
that's
year.
all right.
You want
Appreciate
to give another presentation next year?
I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll fix this one and we'll make it better.
And real quick, not take up time here, but we were all disappointed. Because when we saw the title, Crisis and Conflict Management, we were to start to rumble out in crowds.
So I'd see if I could calm
And then it wasn't even to do with that. So
down. Oh, my.
it was in projects.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I think that was the only presentation that I saw that had a burning bridge in it.
Yes, that would definitely be it. I don't think the American Timber Bridge would be too happy with my current bridge, but there was excitement involved, I'm sure, so
Yeah,
they don't just spontaneously do that.
Have this so that I can.
So, absolutely.
no,
Well, I
that
can
was
stick
good.
around
So we can have.
chat with you. Hopefully you won't have a 2-hour agenda today, so.
Does that make
Yeah.
I got
sense?
a lot to do, so.
All right.
All right,
Yes,
I'll leave this to you, so you can keep moving. Thank you. very much.
Okay, thanks, Nick.
Brad, does he need,
Nate, you want?
this has a place for Wells County Auditor and stuff to sign on that.
I'll have to run through.
All right, first thing, since I wasn't here last week, do you have any questions about like the Oakwoods project maybe or anything?
Well, the amount of money that we are gonna contribute will end up repairing and resurfacing all the streets.
Yes, all the
Okay.
streets out there will be done.
Because that was the only thing that might have
Yes.
been
Yep,
misunderstood.
and that's why I wanted to clarify today.
Right.
Yeah, all the streets will be taken care of. The ones that weren't damaged, maybe that they had a 100-foot section they didn't do anything to, it'll get milled. The rest of them that got destroyed are gonna have to be dug out, have the new base put in, repaved. But there are some sections that just can get milled and re-top coated. Yes, everything out there will be redone. And also just, that was an estimate. So
Mhm.
there could be some unforeseen, which they've already had for the project, so, yeah. I just want to make sure.
Could be under that price then, right?
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Just keep dreaming.
Hey, wishful thinking, that's awesome, I like that. So, anyhow, I just want to make sure that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I have an unofficial detour agreement from NDOT. I can't remember, we kind of gave you a heads up this was coming. And this is for when they are repairing a small structure on 101 north of Pleasant Mills. And I talked with NDOT, and the detour will be Pickle Road out to County Road. Actually, Pickle runs at an angle down to 225 north, and then that'll bring them back over to 101 just south of this project. And they have accepted that as the unofficial detour.
And that's the truck detour.
No, the
No.
truck detours are strictly limited to their state highways.
Okay.
This is just for local traffic. So I have the agreement here, if you guys are good with it, and sign.
So move.
Second.
Okay, motion carries.
You know what I'm doing that about, so I this up. Maybe. Take it out. Sure.
Oh, Brad.
Oh, you got all signed already?
No.
Doggone it, okay. I don't know if I can just scratch that out. They've gotten it right on all the other ones.
Want me to sign it?
Yeah, if you would, sign it. I mean, they put Rex's name on there.
Let me see if I can fix it. See if I'll pass it.
Yeah, all the other ones, they're kind of really good about. It is interesting though. I actually deal with different people on different detours. It's not always the same person.
Are you taking that money for the Nate's Bridge out of Cume Bridge?
Yes.
Yeah.
That'll come out of the, I believe is it the bridge replacement line?
31101 bridge
And
replacement.
we've got signing that thing.
$800,000.
Yeah.
That's right.
All right, we received our monthly draw. The March MVH, $316,906.31. $316,906.31. There again, if you kind of remember, this obviously goes off the fuel tax, so people are driving more. Apparently, they're driving more, so. And on the other side, the local road and street draw for March, $44,206.25. $44,206.25.
Up a little bit.
Yep.
You need a motion to put this in.
Yeah. Need a motion to put that in the record. All right.
All right, ready for this?
Nope.
I&M's busy. So these are all I&M permits. So I believe we can do them all at once, hopefully. So the first one is County Road 400 North between 6 and 700 West, replacing a pole. County Road 400 North between 5 and 600 West, replacing a pole. County Road 650 North between US 27 and 200 West, replace a pole. On 450 North between 600 East and 700 East, replace a pole. And on County Road 500 West between 100 South and 200 South, they're moving a pole 50 feet to the north to be in line with existing Ohio primary.
That's at 500 West.
Wait a minute, overhead primary, sorry. I saw OH,
Oh,
Ohio, it's
oh.
overhead. Overhead
Well, that's a
primary.
long ways from Ohio.
Yeah, you're right. Oh, good catch. Yeah. Yep. So yeah, basically just moving poles, replacing poles. And when we went and looked, I'm not sure what their determination is, but there's a lot of poles out there that look like they could be replaced, and, they'll take the one that must be the worst. And
Yeah.
so anyhow, that's it. They're all replacing poles or moving poles.
Okay, so if we want to take those together, we can do a motion to,
Motion approved.
okay. Thank you.
Can I get a copy when you're done?
Yep, I will make copies for you when this is,
Unless Betsy wants to send it over or whatever,
or we could do that too.
whatever. I just need to know where.
All right.
No more cabling from Pridgeville Telephone?
Not lately. I think they got theirs all lined up out of the way last year already, so we approved all that, so. So while you guys are signing, it's that time of year again for dust control. So we are going to start advertising here as soon as Becky can get it in the paper. So we gotta advertise for 2 weeks. And then we will be taking dust control applications until May 12th. So basically it goes right along the same time frame as buggy plates. So then when this is done, we'll get everything lined up. And this year is going to be $2.90 per foot. That's per lineal foot. And last year it was $2.26. So yes, it has went up. And again, our minimum is 100 feet. We don't put a maximum on it, so whatever they're willing to pay for.
Okay.
And also just while you guys are signing, We had talked before about the road conversion process. It's a petition. People come in and we have started that. Mark's looked at it and we have started that. People have been coming in and getting papers. They're pretty
Really?
excited about it, so.
Well, it just sounds like a good system for people to, because I've had people ask me about improving their roads and I didn't have a good
Yeah.
answer to
And,
tell them, so.
and this way, you know, it just makes it easier. They have to all agree to give additional right of way so we can get in there and, you know, do what we need to do to the ditches, maybe widen the road if it needs it. So yes, we have started that process. We've handed a few out. We've got a few back in. A lot of people are inquiring about it.
Will
So I
that be
think it's-
something that we'll publicize?
Yes, we will. And a lot of people, when they come in, especially this time of year, we're coming in for everything else. They're asking about it and taking them. So,
Good.
and I believe that's it.
All right.
Talk to you afterwards.
Anything else for Brad while he's here?
When do you start taking the applications? The dust
We'll start here. Basically, we got to advertise for 2 weeks and then, I mean, we'll start taking them now, but we got to advertise it to be official. So,
So what, if somebody's putting dust control on, you don't do that until after that road is graded, if it's a stone road, which. it
yeah,
would be
yes,
The-
they'll
the
grade
road gets-
whatever.
Graded and
Yep.
then.
We give the people flags for their footage that they pay for. They put the flags out and, I mean, we'll make sure that's graded, fill all the holes in and then shoot it with oil with the dust
Okay.
control. So
Very
yes,
good.
and it gets a double coat. It'll get the first coat and then we'll go back, usually when we get all the rest of them done and give it a second shot. So it's actually a double layer,
Mhm.
so.
Good deal. All right.
Hey, Brad, on the on the road paving applications. So until we get, applications signed and we get commitments from everybody that they'll, you know, provide the additional right of way, we're not gonna do any surveying until you
No,
decide what roads you're actually.
yes, that is correct. Yep.
Okay. We
Yep.
talked, you know, for the additional right of way, we'll actually have surveyed descriptions for that right of way so that we've got a good clean 60-foot right of way for the entire mile.
And also that, you know, when we talked, we decided we need to have it surveyed so we don't run into what we ran in on 200 West where it was off that far.
Hmm.
We want to know right where this is at now. And yeah,
Well, yeah, I mean, most of your county roads are laid out on the section lines and we assume most of the county roads are centered on the section lines. Some of them are not. When you get out there and actually get surveys, you find it's like this or like that. And we just, you know, since we're gonna build, you know, we're gonna widen, we're gonna
improve drainage.
improve drainage, we're gonna have additional, you know, wider surface. We wanna make sure that when we go in there that we know exactly what those lines are for that new right of way. We've got good right of way. And now's the time to do it.
Yes.
That way going forward, we've got good records. You know, eventually, it'll take a long time, but, you know, at some point in time, maybe you'll have 60-foot right of way on your county
All the
roads.
county roads, that'd be great. So,
Yep.
But as you guys know, you know, 40-foot right of way, most roads are anywhere from 16 to 18 feet wide. And then you got your side ditches, and over the years, what's left, just packed full of utilities.
Yep.
And half of them have been abandoned, but they're still there. And, you know, the trouble we have with utilities companies coming in and then putting in new, you know, fiber or phone line or whatever, and then they run right through our tiles. And with some extra right of way, hopefully over time, that'll get better.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Brad. All right, Rick?
I do have several different things to go over. I don't know, did you remember last week when I talked about our boiler system here? They were inspected last Tuesday, and it was driven from Liberty Mutual Insurance is who came in and inspected it. but there's new codes out that we gotta get compliant with the boiler system. There's nothing wrong with them. They work fine. No fault of theirs, ours, or anything. We just gotta get up to date. When he was here, fortunate situation, BTS was here, John Gilbert, last Tuesday, and he was down there inspecting. He was doing some work on the chillers. So it was kind of nice that John was here because he knew exactly what he was talking about, what he wanted changed.
Was that just a coincidence?
Yeah, it was.
Wow.
Actually, Liberty Mutual just kind of showed up. I really didn't know that he was coming. Anyway, that being said, John did give us a quote, BTS, Solutions gave us a quote to get compliant and have that.
So we actually do have to change some stuff just to meet the new
We do.
requirements.
We have to do it.
Thank you.
That's a quote. Here. Thank you. It has a list of what needs to be changed and done. This is something that we probably need to act upon quick, just because how long is it gonna take to get those items in? If you give me approval to go ahead with this, when I leave here, I will call John, we will get the things ordered, then I'm gonna call the state and try to tell him, I'm gonna have to have some lead time to get this fixed. So I
Did
think
they give us a dateline to do this?
what the gentleman told me from the Liberty Mutual is his report will probably get to them within 2 weeks to a month. But if I was you, I would call them beforehand and be prompt on this to let them know that we are acting on this. And then maybe you can get a timeline of when these parts will get in and get fixed. Maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's a year. We need to have something. We just can't. But immediately, we've acted on this, so. I don't know how long it'll take to get those in.
So if we want to correspond back to Liberty Mutual, would it be better for us to do it or for John Gilbert
Where
to
this-
write up a letter saying, this is what we're going to do and this is when we're going to do it?
I'm gonna call them both, but the gentleman from Liberty Mutual told me to call the state. He gave me the number of the gentleman to talk to down there. He said he will give you a grace period, because they know that this has just came out. If this inspection would have took place in January, we'd have been compliant for the next 2 or 3 years. It's just came out, and that's when he came, so.
Yeah.
They're looking for money.
So where would we take this out of, are you proposing taking out of,
You'd have, I think we should take it out of 1138.
okay. So we've got, service complex repairs and maintenance.
I think it fits it. Sure.
You say 1138?
Yeah, and that number is Fund 1138, 34006.
I haven't got it pulled up. I don't remember if we took any out of there or not.
We have, but I did check with Stan and printed this off. I mean, we do have funds in there to do this.
Okay.
It's kind of not an option thing, really.
Yeah. Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you, state legislature.
Yes.
No particular order here. I received an email from the clerk's office, Shelley Bright. This did not come from the judge. It did not come from the prosecutor or anyone else. It's just something they thought would be appropriate to put up. I've not talked to the judge, prosecutor, attorney, or anyone else over there, but I told her I would present this to you. What this is, the east side of the courthouse, those doors are locked. It sounds like they're not going to be open. I didn't discuss this with the sheriff either. She was at a seminar somewhere, and this is what they put up because they only have one entrance in their courthouse. So basically, it's a sign stating that those doors are closed. So I guess what she was presenting to me is, would it be possible to put one of those up? Stating that that entrance is closed? Or do you not want to do that?
And Rick, that entrance is closed.
To the
Why?
public.
Why is that?
It got closed during COVID, and then I believe they've elected to keep those doors closed for one way in so they can do metal detector and stuff like that. Security. To my understanding. I know he's not here.
You can still exit it though, correct?
Employees can use it, and they can still exit that side. But they do have it locked that you cannot enter there. Any public cannot enter on the east side of the courthouse.
Well, and I think part of the thing with Shelley was, they watched so many people walk up to those doors and find them locked, that if they had a sign like this down at the bottom,
Yeah,
You know, then-
I agree. If it's going to be locked, we need it.
yeah.
I mean, there's a sign on the door that says it, but you probably don't see it till you get up them steps.
Right.
Didn't know what you thought about it or tabled or whatever you wanted to do.
That's pretty standard with any courthouse in any county that I've been to now. I mean, they have the one door where their metal detectors are open to the public. Even if they're the old historic courthouses like our own, you could walk up to basically, they have, doors on all four sides and there's only one side that actually unlocks except for employees.
So
Jay
probably
County
the
is-
same in this location out there.
Jay County has signs like this too. You have to
Is this-
exit.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that makes sense, because I don't foresee us opening that door back up to the public
It didn't sound like
anytime soon.
sheriff or anybody wanted that.
Yeah, so I mean,
The
and
verbiage on that sign, does that adequate for you guys? If I have one made, I'm just gonna go off of that unless you want to change it.
since we got both sidewalks coming up, would you do one kind of towards each corner, towards
We
each
can
side?
if you choose to. I mean, I can put one on each side of it if you want.
Yeah, so people could see it as they're
Yeah.
walking up to the
I'd like to know that
courthouse.
before I go up all those steps.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want a motion on this, Stan?
I suppose to put signage out there at the east door, yeah,
Make a motion.
Second.
all right.
The next item that I have, last meeting, you gave approval to go ahead and start opening up the cavity in 125 to get that project done. I do have a quote on the doors for that room. This is for the fire door. It has to have a fire doors on it, like where Ethan's is, going into that room. So that quote's for that. It is for the door locks. It is for the hardware. Everything that it's gonna take for that, and then that other door on site.
Do we also have a quote for the finishing off the power room?
I do, and I have that today too.
Gotcha.
So those two items and the cost of what it would be for. Now, if you remember last week, what we decided that we would do as far as funding that was, I think we determined we were gonna take it out of the WebEx to the point and then go back to council, maybe get it out of 1140 or add to that project.
So the last line on here is doors and hardware. So does this 15606 does not include any doors and hardware?
It does.
It does include doors and hardware. Gotcha.
It says one door and hardware. I thought we was needing two.
There is, that other door is just like a 6-panel door. It does not need to be a fire door. That is in Stefan's quote.
To go into 125,
Yeah,
that's
to go-
in Stefan's quote.
Yeah. That's
So this is just one door going.
That's that one
Okay.
fire door.
And we are still doing this out of WebEx then?
Well, that's.
Or the
I think
ARPA?
That's what we kind of determined that would come out of WebEx. But keep in mind, just as I stated before, there's going to be a large amount coming out of that. We kind of have a narrowed down number now until you get that invoice from the monitors and things like that, which I don't know anything about that, but to get the room completed, that's what we did last week as far as the construction and the work.
Mhm.
And this is part of that. I don't know what you.
Right.
Is Stefan's quote putting this door in, or who's installing it? That's was Stefan's quote that we passed, because I got on here, one fastener boxes, conduits, and shop supplies. If they're not putting it in, why would they have that?
That is for like the control for the security lock. The strike pads is what that's for. Stefan will install the door, hang the door, and the hardware. That's just the materials of it.
So we have to look at, taking that out of the WebEx project since that is part of the training room. That's where we wanna. The other thing as far as Fund 1138 cum cap, service complex repairs and maintenance, there's some money in there yet, but so we can so. But as we talked about it, we proposed taking it out of WebEx, and then if there's any money that project is short in the end, then we would come to this fund and,
Either come to 1140 to count.
which 1140, there's still money there, but we would have to do it as an additional appropriation from the council. Because 1140 is 314,858. So I guess I would recommend taking it out of the ARPA money, the WebEx fund, which still has a balance of the project right now of $208,100 in there. So to complete that training room in the WebEx project. I don't know what you,
do there is complete that room as far as what construction wanted to be done and revitalization. So take care of it. Be the end of that room and be completed.
and then that room, because they are Shannon, have you started open that up to applications for the new IT employee yet? No? Because that will complete that whole area for the new employee's office, for the training room, for,
Except furniture.
right.
What do you want to do with that?
So, So thoughts on finishing out that?
I guess I feel like we're committed now. We got a big hole wall down there we gotta resolve. I think motion to approve.
Okay. All right. Let's get that room done so we can put that behind us.
Now that we're
Start using it.
still on that room, I just mentioned furniture. Last commissioners meeting, I presented you with OU office tables and chairs and things like that. I do have another quote. I don't know if you remember that quote. What it was. This is from Uline.
Half of the first quote.
Yeah. I can give you that amount on the other one.
I was looking for the other one too.
I messed it.
This one's looking a lot better.
I just have two here, guys, at the last one. So that was the last one.
Yeah, that's what's in my head.
It's about what you said. Yeah. Maybe I can try to get it more.
Yeah.
Just
You got it, okay.
Scott.
Okay.
Well, how did we do that? Go from $12,007 to $6,680.
Yeah, I don't either.
I mean, I don't know if we've bought anything from Uline before, if that's pretty much looking at apples to apples here. These training tables even fold up and have wheels on them from Uline. Have you guys ordered anything from Uline, Tony?
Well, I mean, I could look on doc records, see there's a vendor number for them.
And maybe you want me to try to look into Amazon. I don't.
And then as far as these chairs, do you remember how much these chairs are that we're sitting in right now?
$179 each.
How much would they tell you?
179.
What's wrong with the chairs that we have, those blue ones? Don't we still have them down there?
But you're gonna need, unless you wanna use the old blue ones that was in here too. Maybe that's what you wanna do too. Do you wanna purchase more tables like this, use the old blue ones and then have a few of them in there? Maybe you wanna do that.
It wouldn't have quite enough. Wouldn't have quite enough, because we need 18 chairs for down there, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know that Amazon has the tables.
Yeah, I know, that's. the
They
thing.
probably have the chairs, but I don't know about the, if you remember when we tried to replace the tables in here, it was difficult to find.
It's hard to find anything. you know, that's something we'll have to clean out of that room and what you may want to do with them. The chairs that were in here in the commissioner's room that we're all sitting in here, they're all down there in that room too. I did have a request for them also.
Why don't we order the tables and just use those extra chairs that are down there? I mean, they wouldn't be roll-around chairs, but they'd be chairs.
That's what you can do.
I don't know, unless you wanna,
I think that'd be a good idea. What do you think, Steve?
I think it makes sense.
Yeah.
all right, that way we'll have tables and,
So we'll order the tables and exclude the chairs and use what the good ones that we have down there.
right,
Very good.
okay. All right,
Give me a motion on that.
oh, yeah, do you know where you wanna, any recommendations on where to?
Well, this U-line was cheaper than 4U, unless you want me to look into it somewhere else.
No, but I mean, where you wanna take the money from?
Well, take it out of that,
Same,
since it's part of that room, you want to do it the same way.
take it out of that same,
You're gonna order the tables from Uline.
Yeah. Unless you want me to try to find them somewhere else. Exclude the chairs and just order the table.
yeah, I would say that would,
Make a motion that we order the tables, the 2 and the 6 from Uline and the chairs.
Second.
okay.
And then funding, do you want to take it out of?
Out of
Since it's a training room and it's connected with the
Out of
WebEx,
that WebEx,
you want to do that?
I'm wondering I wonder, before we get too sideways with council, if we ought to go to council and explain to them what we're doing.
I think what we have now, Steve, I think it's a good idea. I think what we have is a lot better number, per se. The only thing we don't have to support that going into them is that last bill of the monitors and things that, the last third phase, we don't have that.
But that was a part of kind of the original WebEx proposal, I assume, and I wasn't here then, but I assume that was part of the original. So I think what we've done is we've added a lot of expense to construct this training room over and above the actual technology piece that was part of the WebEx project. And
Which, when it started, I'll reiterate that was all intentions of taking that out of 1140 and not,
right,
that wasn't,
which is still there. and we
yeah,
can Still do.
And I think maybe we just ought to go to council and say,
So,
here's where we're at. Obviously, there's not going to be enough in the WebEx project ARPA fund approval to cover everything that we're looking to cover out of there. So our options are to expand that or to take it out of 1140.
yeah,
And just wanted to give you guys a heads up. I think we probably owe that to them.
If they increase the ARPA amount that was approved, that was done by resolution,
Yeah.
so Julian Reed would have to, I was either bring a new resolution or amend the first one.
And we probably wouldn't have the exact amount to do that with until that final bill comes in.
bill,
I just feel we owe them a heads up.
okay,
I feel a little uncomfortable making these motions here, knowing that the money's not in that WebEx project to
It
do
is,
everything.
but it
we-
ain't.
Yeah, that last bill, when that last bill comes in, when the train wreck's gonna happen.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, I think I'd like to go to council and just giving them a heads up that we've got
So
that
that-
choice to make.
yeah, but I still think we need to get this approved so we can get that room up.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, okay,
So I'm just gonna, we're good with the tables, order.
all right.
Stan, you had asked me, do I have a quote to get that power room done? That's where the UPS is, that smaller room, or the bleachers, and I do have that for material and labor. That number is $8,827. That's to stud 3 walls ceiling. Drywall, mud it, tape it, paint it. Done.
Does that, did we have to move something off a wall that's currently on a wall and?
There's the door panel controllers.
Yes,
Hanging on there,
yes.
which will be located, I believe, Bob wants to move that to a north wall,
Okay,
and when you come in. It's just a matter of taking it down, putting it up there.
so that's
Yes.
what was that total price?
That total price for that room is $8,827.
And that would come out of where?
The generator.
Generator.
Okay,
Again, probably that atmosphere is going to be the same thing as what we just experienced in the WebEx.
okay.
So,
We haven't got the generator yet, have
we
we?
haven't got the jet.
But that will get that room ready for the electrician,
That's right.
where the electrician can come in, move panels out of the server room, move them into the power room. And
Now remember, let's just walk through that generator. What we've done so far is you've approved a purchase in that. We just had a gentleman in this morning giving us a quote to install and hook that generator up to the transfer switch. Okay? We're gonna be getting more quotes now. That's started. So everything would be down into that basement over there where I showed you on our walkthrough. But when it goes over that other panel where the chillers were, that doesn't take that power along that raceway that I showed you up and get it into that room that we're finishing here, because that's where every panel will go now, along with the UPSs. So what I'm going to be bringing to you, hopefully in the near future, is the cost to hook the generator up and get it down into where our main power is and to the transfer switch. Then I'll be coming back to get another proposal coming back to you to get it from there up to this power,
up to the panels.
up to the panels. So.
Okay,
But this completes what I just presented to you today, completes the room to be able to get the panels and things on it.
okay. All right, so, we need to approve that amount to go ahead and finish that room.
Yeah.
And that would come out of the
That would
generator
be the generator
project.
project. And again, it's the same scenario as the WebEx.
So we need to give council heads up on all this.
Well,
Definitely, I agree with Steve, the WebEx, and this generator is going to be coming into the same thing. Yeah.
And I think it's relatively easy to explain and justify. When we took those projects to council from the ARPA funding, we were talking about the primary expenditure, which was in the generator case, it was the generator and installation of in the transfer switch.
Yeah.
But then we've had all this other, obviously, to get power moved and get things repositioned so that the generator could effectively be connected. Then
Yes.
we've had these other expenses that feel like part of the same project. The question to council is going to be, do you want to continue to fund that out of ARPA, or do you want to fund that out of 1140? So I think that's their decision then as to whether they want to do that. But I think we just owe them that heads up that says, hey, remember, so that we don't get criticized for being over budget on these projects, knowing that full well, we've approved the hardware piece of these projects, but not all the ancillary costs that were going to come with installing either the WebEx project or the generator
And I
project.
just wish we had a solid number to give them, but we
I,
don't.
I understand, but I think if we just have that conversation with them, I think that'll take a little bit of the sting out of it once that final number gets there. So I'll make a motion to approve the power room finish for $8,827.
Second.
okay, motion carries, thank you.
I think you've heard enough from me today. That's all I got.
You spent enough money today, Rick.
Pardon?
Rick spent enough.
You do a great job. I hope you don't feel like every time you come in here, we beat you up. I apologize for that if that's what it feels like, but I appreciate what you do for us.
Thank you. It's making me challenging. Anything else?
I think we're good. Thank you, Rick.
I just put back up.
I think we need to.
We do want 2 signs on each side. We're gonna get 2 signs for.
I think
Executive
that would be,
session. Anytime we talk about
Well, we're
security, I
getting
can even
it.
talk
And we're
about that.
good with the verbiage that's on that sign.
As we're talking about.
That's it. We're good with what
Yeah.
it said.
all right, Ed?
Good morning. I'll work to be quick here. I don't have too much. Since our last meeting last week, we had one of our banks that negotiated a higher rate. So that's always good. And that's one there. I might move some more money into there from a different bank because they're substantially more now than one of the other banks. And so we'll think about doing that. I want to let you know that all of our tax forms are ready to go. We have a tax statement that we do. It's a 4-page front and back. That goes through DLGF, and those have to be approved. Not only the ones that we mail, but the ones that are online when somebody goes to pay online, and then the ones that are through our GIS system. When they look up, all that has to match exactly. And it's quite the process, actually. And then there's one other step with our VPS credit card system. So there's 4 different sets of forms that DLGF looks over. All that's ready to go. The actual forms will be mailed out by L&D Mailmasters Friday, April the 7th. So everybody will get them the following Monday or Tuesday. And that'll be a full month ahead of time before they're due on Wednesday, May the 10th. Okay? And I'll have press releases stating that next week. So hopefully our newspapers can get that in the paper. Want to let you know that everybody upstairs, the staff's working on 150 splits that we do this year. That number keeps creeping up year after year. It seems like people that buy that and immediately want to put it into splits. That's increasing. There are some counties in the state that do not work on splits whatsoever. They say if Mr. Stoppenhagen, if you sell a property and you split it off right away to Mr. Kuhn and Mr. Bailey, you're going to pay all the taxes and you collect from those 2 for that 1 year. A lot of treasurers just are not doing it. Now, we still do it. We're still going to continue to do it, but it's a trend that I see down the road. We still have to figure it out. Some of these other counties aren't doing that either. They're saying you figure it out that first year and then
Wow.
they get their own parcel for the following years. And a lot of the commissioners are going along with that. So I don't foresee that here unless those numbers increase where it's just getting hard to do it.
How much time would you say that your office spends on doing splits?
They'll work at it all week long. And they really can't do it until this point where all those forms and everything are ready to go.
Mhm.
So luckily, we are no longer printing and stuffing and mailing those tax forms.
Right.
They have the time to do it. We'll have it done this week. But it's a lot of hands-on. They have to calculate the homestead, who gets the mortgage exemption for this last year, the mortgage exemption. Where is the barn? Where is the house? You know, this back 40, this 20 acres here, you know, what are you splitting it? They have to calculate all that by hand. And it's a timely process. They'll have it done this week.
All right.
Okay.
Ed, I think it makes sense for you to continue to think about whether we want to keep doing that. In my mind, it's not a foregone conclusion that we're going to keep doing that.
Well, it's
So-
not something that we're mandated to do.
Yeah,
It's just we've done it out of courtesy.
I understand that.
And Kathy even says we have to figure out the taxes anyway. So if we have to figure them out, you might as well do like 3 more steps. And
We're talking about 22 taxes payable 23, right?
Correct.
So it would be taxes that were actually incurred prior to the split.
Correct.
Okay, so we just have to keep that in mind, that we're talking about last year's business
Right.
that's impacted by this year's activity, and then you all have to make the changes in your records to adapt to the particular way that a sale took place.
And we could justifiably say, no, this is how it was at that point last year. Mr. Stoppenhagen, you owe all those taxes.
Yeah.
Now, if you sold it to Mr. Kuhn and Mr. Bailey, you work it out amongst them.
Yeah,
And then next year, everybody will have their own separate parcel.
yeah, I don't know exactly how I feel about that, but it's not a foregone conclusion in my head that we're gonna keep doing that. So you keep helping us.
And Adams County
I understand that.
has a vastly more of the population that does this than a lot of other counties.
I hear
Well,
you.
why don't you keep that under consideration and see how it goes moving ahead?
Yeah,
And some of the other counties
Right.
are definitely going that way, and
Yeah.
I see a trend. Okay, Golden Meadows Land Auction at the 4-H Fair. Last week, it was mentioned that that auction was at 6:30. It's actually 6 PM. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that. I'm going to suppose that all three of you will be there. There'll be some decisions to be made, but hopefully they'll be easy decisions. Okay? Last week, we talked about the bank situation out in California, the Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank, all that is insolvent. They're pumping a lot of money into it, but there's a big situation to go there. There was a third bank I talked about that was going to go, in my mind, and that was First Republic, and it's in the same boat now. And then overseas, Credit Suisse is a huge bank conglomerate over there. They're in very big trouble. It still does not affect Adams County in any way. In fact, after I talked with everybody Monday last week, I've got letters from not all the banks, but from the CEOs of several of our local banks, plus our brokerage, plus Trust Indiana. They want us to know, after my initial questioning of them, they want us to know that they're in very solid, good shape. They don't invest in the high risk, high yield equity notes and stuff that some of those other banks did, got them in trouble. So we're in good shape there, and I just wanted to, just a little extra. It's not over. There may be other banks that fall into it. There very possibly will be other banks that fall into it, but we are keeping a very close eye on it, as all my banks are.
Very good, appreciate the information.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, Jack? Morning.
morning.
Should be a quick request, but I'll try and break it down for you. So a couple of weeks ago, I went in front of the change committee, just trying to talk about our laptops. They're outside of warranty, they're about 4 years old, and we've had some recent maintenance on it. So had some concurrence from the change committee. It's probably about time for the probation department. We have 8 officers that use laptops to get those updated. Otherwise, when we got them updated last time, we kind of waited too long, and they started having problems with charging, and the batteries weren't holding, and all of a sudden, it was hard to make sure we had things done in time. So we're just trying to get ahead of the game. And then I got a quote from Mike. He said each laptop is going to cost about $1,500, and in total will be around $12,000 to purchase 8 laptops. So I have an additional in for county council to review for next meeting from them to see if they'll do an additional in our user fees. So it'll be coming out of the county budget, and see if we can get those purchased sometime this year. Since it's above the threshold, I want to run it by the commissioners and see if you guys are okay with that purchase, and you guys aren't surprised.
Yeah, because some of yours, when we talked, I think you were at end of life on, I don't know if they were all of them end of life, but.
Not currently. Fortunately, we're in good shape right now, but it was
Yeah.
one of those that we told Ethan was going on. He's like, yeah, it might not be repairable. We might have to get a loaner. So
Yeah.
fortunately, we got a chance to look at it and said, hey, we can still keep it rolling. So,
And is there anybody that uses PCs or is everybody on laptops?
the secretaries have, I guess we can consider PCs. They're connected to the county server, but also they run just off of the tower.
Okay.
That way, yeah.
Are you replacing those also?
No, actually, IT just came over and upgraded those, I think last year, 2 years ago, so those are in pretty good shape.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
The laptops are easily 4 years old. So I know we got about half in 2019. I think some even came in at the end of 2018. So we're really pushing that 5-year mark. Wish we may last longer, but I just know last time we pushed it to the limit and all of a sudden the batteries and the charging started falling apart on it. So
Stan, do you know if we have a plan an inventory and a plan as to how all of our laptops and when they all get replaced, if there's some kind of a scheduled replacement plan?
I don't know
for-
that there is a scheduled replacement for asset management, but
That is something that we brought up in a recent change meeting
yeah.
about creating that schedule. Mike was up there and,
Certainly would allow us to budget for things like this.
right,
if we had
and
a-
that was mentioned during that meeting. I don't know where they're at on it. Mike might be thinking that might be something the new person would help. I'm not sure. But at some point, they are talking about getting that scheduled.
So to get this accomplished, I mean, from the change committee, that was the recommendation to replace all 8 laptops.
correct.
Okay, so, all right,
Motion approved.
Second.
all right. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Well, hopefully it's not gonna take us a year to get them in.
No, but I'd rather try and plan ahead. That's all. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Jack. All right, I think Mark must have just stepped out.
I think you might got a call, stepped out.
Oh, okay.
Sure.
All right. Mark, Clayton, did you guys have something?
You got a couple resolutions.
Okay,
Yeah, I've only got one resolution. So Barb came the other week. It's the resolution to adopt the updated multi-hazard mitigation plan. I just kind of cleaned it up and because it needs to be presented by us. I don't know if you want me to read through it. It's basically just that, it's required that we update it every so many years. So this is just adopting the most recent plan.
I don't know that we need to read through it.
Make a motion to adopt that resolution.
Second.
Okay, motion carries.
Did I say that number was going to be 6?
You did last meeting. Said it was going
Yeah,
to
we
be
haven't
6.
had any. I'll just put 6 on here.
You did say 6. That was good.
Need to sign it too. Then I'll just keep a copy. So I can scan one, get it. You want me to scan that and send it to you guys as well? That resolution?
Once it's signed and, once everybody's signed, yeah.
Okay, I'll just- I'll-
Or I can do it. Just give it to me here and I'll.
Either way.
Yeah, if you guys are okay, if we bring Mark up. Okay. So- All right. Thank you.
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
Oh, 15 buildings.
Yeah, so, you can see that we have put out 65 permits this year already. And that's above last year's number of 34.
Wow.
So at this point, nothing, interest rates aren't scaring too many people.
I guess not. I guess not. Wow. Yeah, that's a pretty good report. So the unattached buildings, are those mostly farm buildings?
Yep.
Okay. Very good.
A lot of them, called a company shed. So in the Amish community, they'll build a shed literally for company,
Oh.
so weddings,
Sure.
church, big gatherings.
Yeah.
So a lot of times that's a big.
Interesting.
Nice.
Few days go up.
Okay. Any questions on that report?
Thanks. Motion, we put it in the minutes.
Okay,
Second.
very good. Motion carries.
Labor. Kennels.
It depends. If you want to talk about it now, we can talk about it now. We had, yeah.
No, I think it needs to go in.
Good.
Yeah.
Got it.
Mark, he's gonna go ahead and talk about our kennel situation. So yeah, I don't know if,
About the same stuff I gave.
I've got that one.
I'll stick, that way we can both talk. This is just, some stuff we handed out the other night. Yep.
Yeah.
So.
okay, so, yeah, if you wanna kinda just set the stage a little bit as far as what you've seen.
So why there's a bit of an uproar or whatever you call it going on. 2018, after several meetings, we put together a dog kennel ordinance for the county. This came about because there were large requests, and we had been made aware that there were a lot of kennels in our county. Some not so great, some doing super job. But they really wanted us to figure out how to get that put together. They actually talked.
So when you say we, we're talking about the plan commission, I don't know, BZA was involved at all, and then from there it came to the commissioners?
Yes.
Okay,
Went through the whole thing. So we started with plan commission, bringing it up, saying, they're the ones that initiated it. And then from there, we worked on looking at what other counties are doing, tried to craft our own ordinance. And we worked with a lot of the local guys that were already had kennels from all communities. And because we didn't want to put something together that we wanted it to create, I say we again, it's not me, but it's planning commission. Put something together that if there's an issue out there, we could deal with it, but also not stymie somebody that has a good business and is doing a good job. So that was created and it was passed in 18. At that time, so in there now is a setback from a neighbor if you are going to put in a kennel of 1,000 feet. We identified roughly 30 kennels that existed, and we asked all of them to come in once the ordinance was done. One of the things you have to do is go in front of plan commission and give them the whole scope of what you're doing. And if they made it in there was a date put on the ordinance that says anybody that gets on the plan commission signed up by this date will be exempt from the distance, because obviously there's existing ones that have spent maybe tens of thousands of dollars on their facility. You wouldn't want to just make an ordinance that wipes them off.
right.
So we had a date and roughly 30 came in and went in front of the planning commission, said what they were doing, how many dogs, how they were handling, their whole business. So then after that, on our thing, it says you're supposed to get registered and pay an annual fee. And this is every year. You get re-registered, you get an annual fee. And I come out, they call, I come out, I just verify that it's still in existence, how many dogs they got, and that it looks like it's being kept up the way they said. They're supposed to have, our ordinance says if you have 3 females or more of breeding age, you have to be USDA certified. USDA says 5 or more, so Planning Commission lowered the number for Adams County. So that's one thing that they did, and all the ones I've ever looked at have more than 5, so that's never been an issue or a question to this point.
And then if you have 21 or more, it's automatic. You have to be state also licensed, because that's when the state kicks in.
And inspected.
Yes. So USDA does, they used to do annual inspections. I think they've pushed it back now since COVID to every 3 years. Just recently, they've changed that, but they were annual, and then state does it also annual if you have 21 or more. The paper I've given you shows some green, some yellow, some red. Basically this year I said, where are we at with all of these? I'm trying to get myself caught up with it. I shouldn't blame it, but everybody else did. So basically during COVID, we got a little lax on some things, and I'm trying to get it straightened back up. What I found out was there was several of the people that came in initially and did their plan commission hearing that never came back in. So they did the plan commission, but never got registered, never had me look at it, never did any of that. Then there were some that did it for a couple of years, but then dropped off. And there was a couple that were all the way up to date till now and just hadn't got their 23 done. And then some were perfect, had done it all the way through. Even ones that hadn't done 23 yet were still in good standing. So I sent out 3 different letters to, depends what category you were in, and to ask, at the end of the letter, it basically says, can you please call the office in 30 days to set up an appointment so we can come out to see where you're at. And maybe some have gotten rid of the kennel and don't even have dogs, and we could officially take them off the list. Maybe some have exactly what they said they had, and they've had them for 4 years. At that point, we would just make sure that USDA is up to date, and then they get registered and caught up with the registration. Meaning they would owe for the 4 years they didn't do. And then get them squared away and then hopefully go forward correctly. That's where we're at, waiting on those phone calls. So the ones in green are taken care of and done. The ones in yellow have had either phone calls in and made an appointment, or I've already done the appointment and they're fine, but they need to, once I do the appointment, then they have to come into the office, fill out the registration paper, pay the annual fee, bring in the copies of their USDA, and then that's it. So they're half done.
So I assume the ones in green and yellow, their inspections passed and the kennel was okay.
Yep,
The ones in red, we don't know.
I've not seen them ever.
So you have not done any inspections on the ones in the red?
I've seen them since they went through the plan commission 5 years ago.
So you don't go out and inspect unless they respond to the letter?
Correct.
Okay. So,
I've gone out to check on places in the last 5 years that we get phone calls about something that exists or maybe an issue. And again, I said this in the open meeting the other night, it is driving to somebody's house, knocking on their door, asking them if they've got what I was reported that they have. And if it's yes, can we take a look? Not, people think it's, I drive in and start walking through barns, and that's not a thing. I prefer not to get arrested. So we knock on the doors, and we had a couple that we did that, and they did have something they weren't supposed to have, and they said they didn't know, and they actually got rid of the kennels.
so for the people that didn't respond, or what I wasn't sure of, is there a conflict between our ordinance and the state's ordinance?
The conflict that they're bringing up that you've heard about is the one person who, by the way, did call me yesterday finally, and said he'll call me later this week to set up an actual appointment. He didn't actually set up the appointment, but he said he wanted to put this behind him and get on with it. So it's the same person that's been calling. Is that 5 USDA versus 3? That's the question.
Okay.
And
May I interject here?
yes,
That same person that you're talking about has got a hold of me, and he's contacted USDA, and USDA says, we have nothing for 5 or under. You don't need anything for 5 or under. And so when our resolution says 3 or more, they can't get a USDA because they have nothing.
which is what, again, he's told you, he's told me, which again, all of the ones that are in yellow and green that I actually know about and actually have been to, they're all above 5, which is when you have to be USDA.
Yes.
So it's not even a question. I've never had this question, so I don't even know how many actually exist that are 3 to 5. None of them that I know of. Of all the ones that are on this list, I don't know how many of these are having that issue. Because I don't know.
So what he is saying is if you
So you
got
can't-
less than 5,
He can't even get USDA.
he can't even get USDA.
Because you could have, and it's, we'll say laziness, not on his part, USDA. At the time this was done, you can voluntarily be USDA. You can say, well, I'm 3, but when I sell these, and maybe they have only 3 or 4, and they're doing a great job, and they want to promote them and sell them. And yes, on their paperwork, when they list them for sale, if they can say USDA registered kennel, that helps them.
Mhm.
So USDA is supposed to take you voluntarily if you ask them to. The only thing USDA can't do is force it on you when it's below that number of 5. So apparently, again, only according to a phone call and the person saying it, I've not verified it because he's not called me yet till yesterday. He's saying that USDA is saying, we're too busy, don't have time, we're not taking any numbers that are below what we require, is what's being said. They should. If somebody's voluntarily and wants to be a good kennel and wants to have that USDA registration for their 3 or 4 dogs, they actually should allow them to become.
So
But that's the road.
is it the USDA's problem for not responding, or is it the kennel owner's problem for not pursuing it and following our county?
Good question. And I also wonder again, how many I hate to even pound on that because that might be 1% of the problem there. That might be the only human out of this list that has less than 5. So that's not the number one problem. The number one problem is these people aren't calling me at all. If they just call me at all, we would work it out. If he truly tried to get USDA and then I call USDA and verify it and they send me a letter that says, yep, we're just too busy, can't do it. We'd work with them. We're not going to say, oh, well, it says you have to have USDA, you're out. We wouldn't do that. We would say, okay, let's be ICAW certified, which is ICAW was a private entity that helped us with the ordinance. And you could be certified in different ways, and we would just try and work something out, but I haven't been able to have that phone call and conversation to figure that out. So that's where we're at. Hoping that people just call, just simply come out, figure out where they're at, and then figure out how to get where we need to be. Even if that means it can't be USDA because they won't take it, and we'll figure out another method.
I think the legal question is, we as a local zoning body decide what regulations we want to have followed concerning kennels in Adams County. So if we've set that standard at you have more than 3, we want you to meet USD regulations. Whether USDA requires it or not, the legal question is, can we require that as our standard? And what are those standards? Now, when you call up USDA and say, do I have to be USDA if I've got less than 5, and they say no, that doesn't mean that Adams County can't have an ordinance that requires compliance with USDA guidelines, whether USDA takes jurisdiction or not. I think that's the question. So I've talked with Pat Hess, and as it stands right now, the main problem we have is the absolute failure of individuals on the list to contact our own zoning department to respond so that we can see where they are. And if there's a problem, they can't get USD registration, and because they won't register for less than 5, even though they should, the question is, okay, what standards do we still expect you to follow? And, under home rule, you have pretty broad authority to pass local ordinances for public health, welfare, including animal health. And if that's the standard that you want to have, then so be it. So I think that's where we've got to look at it. Let's get a copy of the current ordinance, and I'll have, Clayton take a look at that. And the legal question is, can we require compliance with USDA guidelines, whether you're registered with USDA or not?
And just to follow up, like you said, if they would just call me, this particular person in the last 35 days, it's called Board of Animal Health, USDA, some commission members, and the sheriff's department,
Yeah, but they haven't called you.
but they haven't called me.
Right.
And that's all they had to do, and I'm not a mean guy, I'm trying to figure out where they're at. What do they have? What's the problem? How can we help you get where you need to be? And I can't answer any of them questions until they call. So it's very frustrating that they call everybody else. And every one of those entities, by the way, have called me, told me that he called, and every one of them, especially USDA and BOA, I explained exactly where we're at, exactly what's going on, and they went, oh, yeah, he said it a different way. You're fine. And we're done with the conversation. It happened both times I called them. So that's where we're at.
Here's the ordinance.
So I talked to Pat just a little bit ago, called him to follow up on this again. I think the course of action is to,
ordinance.
Current
you
one?
know,
or-
Yes.
try to, get the appointment set up, do the inspections, and if the individuals won't respond, then you have to proceed with whatever enforcement penalties that you have. And, that's what our ordinance says. In the meantime, we can do some research and see if there's, I see it as a home rule issue. You generally have the ability to regulate as you see fit in the best interest of your county residents and animal health. And just because the federal agency may not regulate doesn't mean that you can't.
Typically in these situations, Mark, isn't it the case that you can be more restrictive than the state requirements, but you can't be less?
You can't be less. And in many cases, you can be more restrictive.
Yeah.
Unless
So I guess
there is-
that's just our question.
Correct. Unless there is some specific provision that says you can't regulate in this area
Right.
beyond federal.
Right.
And we did run into that. We have ran into that concerning intensive livestock and manure application. We have ran into that issue.
Yeah.
But that is a very specific code for a very specific use. And I don't think this is one of them. In general, I think the public in general is in support of ordinances that have, responsible breeding for animals and responsible breeding, humane treatment of animals, et cetera, et cetera.
I happen to be sitting on the planning commission when we adopted that ordinance, and it covers such things as how much outdoor run area needs to be available to the animals, heat and temperature control and I mean just a plethora of things that are built around the well-being of the animals. And so when I sat on the planning commission, I felt like that those requirements, I'm a pet owner and I have been a breeder. I think those requirements were reasonable and in the best interest of the animals. But I guess we have to make sure that what we've done is legal.
If you've got a federal, and this is the way a lot of federal regulation works, it only kicks in once you hit a certain threshold. Once you hit that threshold, those regulations are there because they've determined that, this is what's best, this is what's humane, this is what makes sense if you have this many animals. Well, does that mean that if you have less animals, they don't matter? And I don't think so. And if the county wants to regulate below that line, then so be it.
And like like I say, I hate to get in the weeds, but I still think this is the minor part of that conversation. Everyone I've ever been to is far beyond the 5 number. So I still think this is a very small, if not only
Yeah.
one person that has that issue. I don't even know, like I say, since they won't call. But, because most people are doing this for additional income. And if you're gonna have 3 and you gotta be USDA, that's only 5, and that's how most of them are looking at it. And most of them, as you can see the numbers on here, especially the ones that are in green and yellow, it's 40, 19, 65, 23. There is one that's 4, 19, 3, which is actually that number is, he went up, and 45. They're 19, 19, and 15. So it's usually they're between the 5 and the 20. They a lot of times want to stay out of the state just for one more thing to do. But once they decide to go big, they usually go pretty big. And some of these are doing, I know some people would walk into any kennel at any time and think they're, it's not humane and it's not a great life. And I'm not going to say it's a wonderful life, but there are some of these people doing a fantastic job with how they handle their dogs, and how they play with them, how they interact with them, how much time they get to be on those runs and those outside areas, how much human touch they get. There's some that do the just phenomenal job. EJ does a great job. Sam Carr does a great job. Those are the top 2 in the green. Those top of my head, they do a fantastic job, and they're some of the biggest numbers. But yeah, I just wish they'd call me. That's really all I'm trying to get.
Why are these people not responding?
I
I mean,
don't
we've
know.
got a gentleman here with 45 breeding females
Mhm.
who has not responded.
And
I mean,
he
how
was
do they
good up to a
expect-
point, and then I think he had, if I remember right, he had some inspections and some registrations taken care of, and then he had an inspection and then never registered and then didn't get an inspection anymore.
Did he
It
just think
just
that,
faded away, but he still has, I'm sure he still has freedom. And he didn't respond either. That one shocked me, not gonna lie.
yeah, because we have to, it has to be clear that, yes, we have the authority to do this, and yes, it is an annual fee and an inspection. And therein lies the consequences after that of, not operating a kennel.
He was one of them that was in the audience when Steve was on the Beach Plan Commission, and there were several people in this audience. We brought a gentleman named John Lapp.
Remember John?
him? Very
Yep.
well-spoken guy, from Amish community down in, I forget what county, but it was south.
South of here.
Quite a bit, and
Rush
he
County,
was the
maybe, or
site
somewhere.
call representative, and I can't even remember what that stands for at the moment. I'm drawing a blank, but, they are very responsible for having really nice kennels. When any one of these people contacted them and became an iCall member, and then iCall helped them get their kennel set up, and they also come do an annual, they are very thorough. If you follow their rules, you'll be above and beyond USDA and state. They're the nicest ones. And he came down, was very articulate, talked through it very well. We had, like I say, a bunch of people local that were in the audience that we would talk with them during this process. We did not leave anybody out, all the way from the breeders to, the pauses of the world and that kind of thing, both ends of it. We're trying to listen to everybody and come up with what we came up with. I'm the guy that's stuck in the middle having to supposedly enforce this.
Well,
So, just
well,
tell me if I should
that's-
keep doing it or not.
If the plan commission's ordinance was appropriate as in regards to compared to the state, and I don't know if Clayton, if you've got any opinion on us in regards to state ordinance, or maybe not at this time yet.
Yeah, no, I'm talking, I've never had the chance to read this original one. I
Okay.
mean, the big thing is just gonna be, yeah, I'd like to review it first, and so we can talk more about it next week.
Okay.
About its appropriateness or not.
But I think for the meantime, we will put this on the agenda for discussion next week, and if Mark, or you and Mark, or both of you have an opinion on that part of it, and our ordinance in relation to the state, or even if Pat wants to come and speak to that too, as far as our ordinance in relation to the state and its enforceability. And these people have to know that if they're gonna operate a kennel, a breeding kennel, that they have to follow the county ordinance to do so. And that ordinance is there for a reason, and it's there for a reason so that kennel is operated appropriately for the sake of the animals and for the people both. So if they're not gonna do that, then we are gonna have to take enforcement action, and we are gonna have to deny them the opportunity to run a kennel if they're not gonna participate in the county ordinance. And so, you know, if we can come back, and if you think it would be appropriate to have Pat come in, I would certainly welcome that, to have Pat come in.
See if he's available.
And actually, if any of the breeders on this list would like to come in and speak to this issue, I would certainly welcome that also. So I don't know how you gentlemen feel, but
100%.
you know, but for the next week, I'd say, you know, we'll put it at a standstill, and we will address the issue next week, and
Call me, I'll take the call and we'll make the appointment, but I won't pursue another letter or
Good deal.
any visit until after next Tuesday.
yeah.
I mean, they initiate the visit, but I won't initiate it.
Mark, do you want to see anything?
Yeah, we just need to do the research here on if there's any city law protection that preempts our ordinance, and if there is, then that's the way it is.
So is that enough time to speak to it next week? Okay.
All right.
So, all right, well, thanks for your work on this, and we will, you know, the ordinance is there for a reason. It was well thought out. And, you know, I think if we're gonna enforce compliance, I think we're gonna force it for the betterment of the business and the animals.
I can tell you that, Enos on the top there, he was one that spoke this year, and he's like, he knows there's an issue. And he's never been one of the issues. He's super, he's like, this frustrates all the rest of us that are trying to do it correctly, because it makes, you know how it works. One person does it wrong and everybody wants no kennels, period. And he doesn't like it. He would like it straightened out, so then the ones that are doing it right don't get a bad name for no reason.
Well, and it does make me wonder, it's like you say, it's not very, very small part of this, I'm sure, is a matter if you have 3 dogs, 4 dogs, or
Yeah.
5 dogs. It's a matter of, why don't you want us to inspect the kennel? Is there a reason? Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thanks,
All right.
Mark.
Yeah. All right. There. All right. Shannon, did you have anything for us today?
It's not up now, is it?
Afterwards. You realize you almost whacked Justin in the head with your computer.
He would have been fine. Last week, we talked a little bit about, the SHRM certification that is coming up and is available in the next couple weeks. The education period is from April until June. And
Sorry, I was.
This is the SHRM certification that we talked about last week during.
Oh,
the
okay,
office hours.
okay.
So the education period is coming up, so I want to go ahead and get registered as long as you guys are still okay with this. So I printed out my shopping cart and everything that I would need for it, just to have you sign it, and then I'll go ahead and work with the auditor's office to get it purchased. Bree said she thought it would be best to use the credit card versus me paying for it since it's so much, so.
It would probably come out of training, I would assume.
Yeah.
I've got employee training in the commissioner's budget. 32,001, and we've got $2,915.99 left in there right now. So,
Shannon, are there other certifications like this that other employees could or should be pursuing relative to their job that they're doing with the county right now?
I would have to do research on
I'm
it.
just off the top of your head, can you think of anything else that's like, yeah, there's another, I remember when Mary pursued some training.
well, they all
relative to
have
the
training line
assessor.
items in their budget.
Okay,
It just happened that she is under our,
She reports to you all.
she reports to us,
okay.
even though her salary comes out of the auditor's budget,
Mhm.
she's coming to us to take special training out of our budget.
Okay,
Yeah, I
So-
mean,
good deal.
I typically have only research training that would be relevant to my department and my position
Okay.
throughout my career. I'm sure that there's plenty others that we could talk to,
Okay.
those departments about.
Very good.
So, and do you have a total for us?
Yes, it's $2,013.36.
How much cents?
36 cents. And so here's what I did. I printed this is the exam itself, and this is 2 books. And then this is the course. And here's like the order summary, it's kind of funky looking. And then I just put pay from employee training with the code, and I was hoping that y'all would sign it and date it right at the bottom, so I have it for my.
There wasn't any tax on it.
No, the only tax is for the 2 books. That's the only tax that they have to tax me on.
Do we have to pay tax on you?
I don't know how I would get out of it, even if I submitted one of the forms that Tony gives me.
Is it a state tax? I don't know. Do we pay state tax?
It's $4.24.
Yeah, it's probably not worth the hassle.
I mean, you would have to submit the form to see if they would, and I don't know if they would, I don't know where they're located, I don't.
Gotcha.
I mean, typically, no, we don't pay tax typically,
Make a motion. to
but
Okay.
might be problematic.
So
Where do you want to sign
that'll
that?
be out of our employee training of 32,001.
I wrote that myself. It's just down here, anywhere, yeah, and then date it for me, please. And then
321, right?
the only other thing I had was what Mike was talking about in drainage board this morning. We did have a ditch technician resign, so his last day is going to be Friday the 24th. So just was looking for permission to post that position and recruit for it and try to get somebody in here for Mike's department.
Motion approved.
So that.
Right, yep.
What are the initials of that certification? SHERM?
SHRM. SHRM.
Kind of like mushroom without the mush. Or without the ma. No? All right. Okay, I've kind of cut off the attorneys. Did you gentlemen have anything more for us?
I did not.
I don't think so.
No, so we got that interlocal agreement taken care of with Nate, so those are the 2 things from me today.
We got
and-
something, yeah, we'll have a resolution possibly next week that deals with the military leave. So,
Anything as far as the interlocal?
If you're gonna talk about the Council on Aging and transportation, yeah, I'm currently preparing that, so I should have
Good.
something that Mark and I can go over together either this week or next week.
Good.
So, because I know that we need to get that done, so I'm starting on it, starting to acquire all the ins and outs, because that one definitely has a few moving pieces. So, but yes,
this all has to do with that bridge that commissioners and council have to approve. You can have that. Yep, yeah.
Do we want to discuss anything as far as the land sale now?
What, save that for discussion with the council on Thursday?
Yeah, and that might be something, well, I guess I'll bring you up to speed. Mark, I don't know if I talked to you also. I had a meeting with Josh and Trevor the other day in talking about the land sale and talking about what land values have done over the last several months. So, you know, the average of the two appraisals that we had were done during a peak in land prices. And since then, I think they've come down a little bit. And so in that meeting with Josh and Trevor, they felt like the property on the west side of the road would probably be still around that average. The property on the east side of the road may not bring near that average. So I guess I wouldn't mind talking about that and what your thoughts are. And
Well, you hold the sale with reserve. And so I talked to Josh about that. So I think the reason that we had the appraisals, that's just the first part of the process for when you go to determine to sell county real estate. But when you put it up for public auction at a commercially advertised public auction, I think that whatever that price is the best value
okay.
at the time.
So-
I think you could sell it for the highest auction value.
So
No.
we don't have to set that as a reserve for the entire property?
I don't think you do.
Okay,
Now, I'm gonna check on that and make sure, but the stat, that would be silly because now you know what it's like when you get appraisals. Everybody's got an opinion. You get an appraisal, you get 10 appraisals, you get 10 different values.
yeah,
You get them at different times, you're gonna get 10 different values. So traditionally, the absolute best determination of fair market value is a commercial auction that's well publicized, which this will be. And then you sell it with reserve, the owner sells it with reserve, and then you make the decision the day of sale, whether or not you're gonna let it go or not.
do you think we should put a reserve on that ahead of time? 'Cause
I don't think you have to you don't have to advertise what the reserve is. I think you can just say it is with reserve.
But when I talked to Josh, one of the things that he said was that whatever reserve we are looking at putting on, he would kind of like to know ahead of time.
Well, Josh, we can communicate that to our auctioneer, but we don't have to communicate that to anybody else.
But I don't think we have to tell him that either, honestly.
No, and I think he can adjust the day,
I-
the evening of the sale.
He'll know, he'll sense when that sale's coming to an end, and at that point, I think he can pull commissioners aside and we can make a decision then.
Correct.
Are we allowed to make that decision at that time outside of an advertised? Of course, it is an advertised.
Yeah, you're not gonna know what the number is until you,
Yeah, okay. I just didn't want to get ourselves into a bind.
Will you be there at that sale?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
so we'll do some more research here and like I think I told you before, that statute it's not real
Okay,
clear. But
all
We'll
right,
get it figured out.
very good. Anything else?
I'll try to think of it.
Okay, good. Anything from the general public? All right,
Not a lot of general public out there.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
all right, meeting adjourned.